Hi everyone, welcome back. We're just going to run through the instructions for today's lesson really and give you a bit of advice and guidance. Just to let you know that what I'll do for future lessons, I'll try and record videos like this and also set up a meeting on Teams. So you can join that meeting and we can have a chat and you can get any help or support that you need in the lesson live. Okay, so today we're back on paper 1. So this is the exam preparation we were doing from September until October. And then obviously from October till Christmas we worked on paper 2. We're back to paper 1, section A, and we're going to do our vocabulary and spike focus, which I'm just going to very, very briefly run over in this video. That's more of a task for you, and then I'm going to go through the reading tasks later on. Okay, so they're the first 5 words. So what you should be doing now is noting down the 5 words, 5 definitions, and at least 1 synonym for each of the 5 words, and then if you can try and put them into a sentence. And what we're going to do is in your handout on Teams, you can go to the assignments, download the handout, and all this information is there for you. All you need to do is fill in the blanks and add the definitions, and then you can upload your work at the end of the lesson in order to get your mark. So what you should do is watch this video about commas and then complete the exercises that are on the handouts that you've been given. So if you want to look at the information on screen, just pause it. Alternatively, you can look at the PowerPoint that is attached to your assignment. Okay, so section A, practice the text. So as we know, paper 1 deals with fictional texts, and this week we're going to look at what's the Phantom of the Opera. It says the 39 steps, but it's the Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. So I'll run through the questions very quickly. So question 1 asks you to read lines 1 to 8 and then list 4 things we learn about the setting from this part of the text. And there's a few answers on the screen there to get you started. And I've included the answers this week on this slide just to show you how relatively straightforward and simple this is. We're not looking for any secret inferred meaning at this stage necessarily. You can be quite obvious in your answers and just basically draw from what the author is saying. Okay, question 2. This is where we get into analysis. So you have to read lines 15 to 33 and answer this question. How does the writer use language to create a sense of mystery surrounding the ghost in this section of your story? So what different aspects of the passage could you analyse? So as you can see, we've got really 3 main sections of text on the screen. So you should break those down and you should look at each one individually, look at the language devices that are used, and also if you notice on this one straight away, you've got speakers and characters expressing things directly. So the actual exclamations of the characters are definitely worth considering. Okay, and if you can have a look through this page, it's just a bit of advice on how to approach the question. But again, how to beat the exam. You must use evidence. You must quote the text as much as you can and make sure you write a lot about it a little. So to do that, pick 2 quotations from the extract and write 2 PEE, which is point, evidence, explain paragraphs for each, analysing different choices made by the writer for each of the points you're making. Okay, so we've got some sample paragraphs. Now obviously this is not a complete comprehensive answer, but it should give you a starting point or a jumping off point that you can then replicate and develop for your own answer. Question 3 asks you to read the entire text again and asks how is the text structured to interest you as a reader. Now you could write about what the writer focuses your attention on at the beginning, how and why the writer changes this focus as the extract develops, and any other structural features that might interest you. But as always, it's good to use the same format and approach every time we do these activities because it will become second nature to you. So again, pick 2 of the following opening phrases at the start and or at the heart and or at the end, and then pick 2 quotations from each section to prove the points that you make. So you should be picking 2 of those and then 2 quotations. That's 4 quotations in all, and then you provide lots of evidence to support your points. So remember, pay attention, notice the choices that the writer has made. What effect or impact do they have on the reader? Now you have to understand, nothing is by accident, everything is on purpose. So if the writer shifts tone or changes the linguistic style or approach, then that's there for a reason. You need to make a point about that. Okay, and on screen we've got the word bank. So these are different phrases, sentences, and terms you can use in your answer to, in an attempt to make your answer seem more formal, and also just help you gain an extra mark or 2. Okay, now we have the long answer question, 20 marks. So for this question, look at the first part of the source from the beginning to the line. Quote, little Gary added, if that's the ghost, he's very ugly. So after reading this section of the text, the student said, the passage is very effective. The author really gives the reader a sense of what it's like to be in the opera dressing room at that time. To what extent do you agree? Okay, so your task now is to, as we say, always agree with the statement that the passage is very effective and that the author really gives the reader a sense of what it's like to be in the dressing room at this time. So what you should do as you agree to this statement in your answer is write about your own response to the scene. So look, this takes a little bit of lateral thinking. If you do not engage with the text or it doesn't hit with you or it doesn't resonate, what you have to do is fake it and pretend it does. Pretend that it really is effective at giving a sense of what it's like to be in the dressing room and draw out points from the extract that will help you support that. So evaluate how the writer has described things in the scene and then support your opinions with direct reference to the text. So as I said, always agree. Use the PEE structure. Use 5 or 6 quotations and you should have at least 4 decent length paragraphs to prove your points. Okay, and as it says, this should always be the part you spend the most time on, simply because there are the most marks available. So you're looking at 20 and 30 minutes on this particular part of the extract. Okay, so to answer this question, evaluate how successful a writer has been throughout a section of the text, and this will involve referring to language and structural devices that the writer uses, but you will also need to show how the writer builds an effect over the course of one piece. Your answer will need to have an overview of the text supplied, as well as an understanding of specific details. And you can also give your personal opinion, and you will need to use quotations in your answer. So some bullet points to get you started. Use specific quotations from the text. Don't paraphrase or summarise what the author is saying. Quote it directly and accurately. Make sure you consider the question. So this will often be a quotation from another student or a teacher giving their impression. You must explain how and why you agree or disagree. Now, obviously, we always agree. So look at the statement and start your answer by saying, I agree with this particular opinion or point of view, and then get into your analysis. Think about how the text changes throughout the section specified. How does the author take the reader on an emotional or psychological journey? So it might be a good starting point to note down what is the psychological or emotional sort of state of the character, or what's the intended emotional state of you, the reader, at the start of the extract, and what is at the end. And if you can write an answer for those 2 questions, you should be able to chart how you get from one to the other, from point A to point B. And that could be a big part of your answer. So remember to refer to the reader. What impression does the author make on them? You are the reader. Make sure your answer is personal. You're offering a judgment, but it must be firmly backed up by the text. Okay, so you can get your own personal opinion across. We really want you to express what you think, and obviously that requires you to engage with the text more than just reading it and doing the activity. Okay, you have to not view this as just some boring task you have to do. Try and read about it and really think about what the author's trying to say and express, and this will make it a lot more straightforward for you. And don't criticise the author too much. Okay, this text is likely to be regarded as a classic of English literature, and you're not really being asked to critique the author. Okay, we've got a partial answer on screen, so you can use this to start your own answer and then obviously develop using this as your template. Okay, what I want to do now then, I will read the extract so you can listen along and make notes. So what I'd suggest is that you open your document now, which is the extract from The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, and then you can just follow along as I read it, highlight key points, key uses of language, and try to answer the questions or get some points for your questions as we go. Okay, so here we go. Where are we? Okay. Sorry, everyone. Okay, The Phantom of the Opera, Gaston Leroux. The following is an extract from The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, which is set in a Paris theatre called the Palais Garnier. The performers in the theatre believe that it is haunted by the phantom or the ghost of the opera ghost, and the story is growing. It's the ghost, and she locked the door. Sorelli's dressing room was fitted up with official commonplace elegance. A pier glass, a sofa, a dressing table, and a cupboard or two provided the necessary furniture. On the walls hung a few engravings. relics of the mother who had known the glories of the old opera in the Rue de la Pelletier, portraits of Vestris, Gardel, Dupont, Bignotti. But the room seemed a palace to the brats of the corps de ballet, who were lodged in common dressing rooms where they spent their time singing, quarrelling, smacking the dressers and hairdressers, and buying one another glasses of cassis, beer, or even rum until the call boy's bell rang. Sorelli was very superstitious. She shuddered when she heard little James speaking of the ghost, called her a silly little fool, and then, as she was the first to believe in ghosts in general, and the opera ghost in particular, at once asked for details. Have you seen him? As plainly as I see you now, said little Hannes, whose legs were giving way beneath her, and she dropped with a moan into a chair. If that's the ghost, he's very ugly. Oh yes, cried the chorus of ballet girls. And they all began to talk together. The ghost had appeared to them in the shape of a gentleman in dress clothes, who had suddenly stood before them in the passage, without their knowing where he came from. He seemed to have come straight through the wall. Pooh, said one of them, who had more or less kept her head. You see the ghost everywhere. And it was true. For several months there had been nothing discussed at the opera but the ghost in the dress clothes, who stalked about the building from top to bottom, like a shadow, who spoke to nobody, to whom nobody dared speak, and who vanished as soon as he was seen, no one knowing how or where. As became a real ghost, he made no noise in walking. People began by laughing and making fun of this spectre dressed like a man of fashion or an undertaker, but the ghost legend soon swelled to enormous proportions among the corps de ballet. All the girls pretended to have met this supernatural being more or less often, and those who laughed the loudest were not the most at ease. When he did not show himself, he betrayed his presence or his passing by accident, comic or serious, for which the general superstition held him responsible. Had anyone met with a fall, or suffered a practical joke at the hands of one of the other girls, or lost a powder puff, it was at once the fault of the ghost, of the opera ghost. After all, who had seen him? You met so many men in dress clothes at the opera who are not ghosts, but this dress suit has a peculiarity of its own. It covered a skeleton, at least, so the ballet girls said, and of course, it had a death's head. Okay, so there we have the extract, so feel free to rewind, pause, go through that, listen to that, but you should also make an effort to read the extract yourself, to maybe pick up on things that you will have missed just listening to me. But that's it. So if you've got any questions, you can access support and feedback and help on Teams, and I'll start a call to start the lesson.